We're going to look at the exact mechanical secrets that keep your body moving, your back strong, and your internal engine running smoothly. Because honestly, none of us want to be stuck making those old person groans every single time we try to get up off the couch, right?
Now, I know this sounds like a pretty terrifying question, but I want you to think about it honestly for a second. If you sat down on the floor right now, maybe to pick something up or play with a grandchild, how confident are you that you could get back up without struggling, without pain, and completely without someone pulling you up? Asking this is absolutely crucial because your answer is intimately tied to your long-term survival. In fact, orthopedic surgeons are calling this the single most underrated test in modern medicine.
And here is exactly why we're asking. A landmark study published in the European Journal of Preventive Cardiology followed over 2,000 adults for more than 6 years. And the researchers revealed that struggling with this simple floor test makes you 5 to 6 times more likely to die within 6 years compared to those who can get up easily. 5 to 6 times. That is just a staggering statistic, and it shows just how deeply our physical mobility is linked to our overall mortality.
So, let's jump right into Section 1, the ultimate aging test.
But listen, here is the incredibly hopeful part of all this. Losing this mobility is not a life sentence. Actually, in a 2022 Cleveland Clinic trial, there was an 82-year-old woman who literally hadn't sat on the floor in 12 years out of sheer fear, and she restored her mobility in just 5 weeks using this exact 3-step sequence. First, you transition your weight to a side sit. Second, press up from the side into a kneeling position. And finally, bring one foot forward into a lunge to push up to a stand. It intelligently builds momentum step by step, completely safely, instead of asking your aging joints to just do everything all at once.
Moving right along to part 2, strength through complete stillness.
You know, when we think about getting stronger for stuff like getting off the floor, mainstream gym culture pushes high reps and heavy barbells. But if you're over 60, trying to keep up with the gym bros and dropping into deep squats is probably going to wreck your knees before your muscles even wake up. The real secret here? Isometric training. These are positions where your muscles are loaded under tension without actually moving. It forces your nervous system to rewire itself safely through sustained tension, building that foundational strength with absolutely zero joint grinding.
Which brings us to Section 3, the lower back walking link.
And this right here is the absolute core focus of today's explainer, your posterior chain. Specifically, we're talking about the spinal erectors and the glutes. These muscles literally act as the central physical anchor for every single step you take as you age. If this lower back anchor gets weak over the decades, your brain naturally compensates by making you shuffle just to avoid falling. We always seem to worry about our leg strength as we get older, but your legs are honestly completely useless for walking if the anchor connecting them to your torso is compromised. So how do we rebuild it? Well, you can rebuild this critical anchor using the Superman hold. It's a zero-equipment isometric bed exercise that is profoundly effective at building foundational back strength. You just lie face down and lift your arms, chest, and thighs just a few inches off the ground all at the same time. And remember, you aren't aiming for height here. You are aiming for tension. Your body should feel like a single, taut line being pulled from both ends, with your lower back and glutes acting as that rock-solid anchor right at the center. Because think about it. Without a rigid lower back to stabilize your torso, even the strongest leg muscles in the world are going to fail to keep you safe and upright while you walk. When your posterior chain is engaged, the very moment you stand up, your shoulders sit back, your chest opens, and your spine stacks perfectly. This rigid stabilization is exactly what allows your legs to actually do their job of propelling you forward without you leaning precariously or losing your center of gravity.
And speaking of your legs, once your back is actually anchoring your posture, you need the right muscles to physically push you forward. A groundbreaking study out of the University of Melbourne found that older adults with weak calves are 3.7 times more likely to need a walker or wheelchair within 5 years. Not thigh strength, not hip strength, calf strength. It's your calves that absorb the shock and push your foot off the ground with every single step. And you know, this just beautifully illustrates the ultimate anchor and engine system for your body. If your lower back is your anchor, your calves are the engine. By holding that Superman position to protect your spine and combining it with slow, wall-supported calf raises, you are literally bulletproofing your ability to walk independently well into your 80s and 90s.
All right, on to Section 4, reviving your gut health. Let's shift gears and look at how this all builds into your internal engine. Because true functional longevity also requires a pristine digestive system. You can have the strongest back and legs in the entire world, but if your internal systems are backed up, creating systemic inflammation throughout your body, your joints and your energy levels are going to suffer tremendously. And here is the hidden crisis. After age 50, the natural wave-like muscle contractions in your colon, which are called paracelsus, slow down by a staggering 37%. This leads directly to hidden toxic buildup.
So instead of relying on harsh, dependency-forming laxatives that really just treat the symptoms, Japanese clinical studies have revealed something fascinating. They found that a timed, warm water rhythm reactivates your colon's natural squeezing motion in just a matter of days. By drinking specific amounts of warm water at these highly specific times throughout the day, you're creating this hydration rhythm that continuously flushes your system without ever shocking it.
If we just break down that 6 a.m. window, it's warm water, lemon for bile production, and a little pinch of unrefined sea salt. The salt creates an isotonic solution, which really just means it perfectly matches your body's natural fluids so your colon absorbs it instantly. This combo triggers your gastrocolic reflex. Think of that as basically your body's natural alarm clock, telling your system it's time to, well, get things moving. It naturally and safely flushes waste.
Now combine that hydration window with this concept called hara hachi bu, which prevents your colon from being overwhelmed in the first place. This is an Okinawan practice where you simply stop eating when you feel about 80% full. When you chronically overeat, your stomach stretches out, and your aging colon gets way more material than it can actually process. Giving your newly revived digestive tract a workload it can actually handle completely transforms your morning regularity and massively slashes the risk of internal fermentation.
Finally, Section 5, your evidence-based blueprint.
Now that we've nailed down the mechanical and internal systems, let's look at the big picture, the holistic evidence-based habits that tie this whole longevity plan together. Because true wellness doesn't exist in a vacuum, right? These rapid-fire habits, from prioritizing 7 to 8 hours of sleep to nurture your brain, to avoiding ultra-processed foods, to building strong social ties, are clinically proven to slash chronic disease risks. Swap out those refined carbs for high-quality proteins and omega-3s from fatty fish to directly fight inflammation. And of course, keep up that isometric resistance.
It is so essential to remember that extreme diets almost always backfire. Why? Because they artificially lower your metabolic rate, whereas actually nourishing your body creates sustainable, lifelong energy. Overly restrictive diets alter your hunger hormones, and that just makes you crave high-fat, high-sugar foods. The evidence always points back to transitioning to whole, nutritious foods that naturally fill you up, while supporting everything from your gut bacteria to your muscle repair.
Listen, you aren't just fighting some inevitable aging process, you are simply correcting lifestyle deficiencies. Whether it's doing the Superman hold to anchor your lower back for safe walking, or drinking warm lemon water to reboot your digestion, the power is entirely in your hands. If physical decline is largely a choice of habits rather than just a trick of the calendar, the real question is, what kind of life will you choose to build tomorrow morning?